What is going on, everybody? I'm your host, Joshua Void, and tonight I really like where this conversation might go because we're really going to be delving into cults. That's the thing, and how the Atheist Uprising looks at cults in general, how dangerous cults are, and afterwards, what we're going to really focus on is how to, first off, engage cults in a proper way, or at least the way that I think is a proper way, and how to protect people who are leaving cults so that they're not pursued by cult members, harassed, and or even worse. So that's where the conversation is going to go today. However, before we commence, I do want to thank our fellow Patreon supporters, Linear and Dion LaShay, for really being here and helping and supporting the Atheist Uprising, and it's absolutely a pleasure to have both of you really help us in the Atheist Uprising move forward. So again, thank you so much for being a Patreon. It really matters. Next thing that I want to say is everybody who's in the comments section right now, thank you very much for coming into the comments section. Thank you very much for listening in. And I really do hope that the show is going to be amazing. Well, actually, the show is going to be so, without further ado, let's commence. So, what is a cult in particular? Well, some people say that cults are embryonic religions in and of themselves that slowly but surely over time and through spreading through the masses, right, slowly start to get adherents. And through their adherence to the general population, they slowly start to metastasize into, I think I got that word wrong too, but it's okay. They slowly start to grow and expand into what is called a religion. Now, there's a lot of things, a lot of people like to battle against that. A lot of people like to say that no, religions are proper and healthy for people, and cults are unhealthy and a detriment to individuals, right? But all in all, hey, Puck, how are you doing? Welcome to the Atheist Uprising. Again, thank you very much for stopping on in and listening into the conversation. So, for me, the way that I see cults, and I think that a lot of individuals who are within sociology see cults, is that cults are embryonic religions in and of themselves. All religions start off small, and through the adherence of the population, more and more people start joining into the cult. And from there, they become established religions over time, right? After taking over large swaths of territory and literally changing people's mentality, minds, and ideas in order to satisfy the original quote unquote cult member. And after the cult member is dead, they live on through the idea of the cult in and of itself and of the memory of that cult leader. So, what ends up going on and what ends up happening, in my opinion, at least, is that all embryonic religions, because, at least for me, all ideas are in a fight for survival, right? So the very essence of cults in and of themselves is to stay alive. Ideas want to permeate throughout the world or throughout people's minds as best as they possibly can, right? And in order for them to stay within that general idea, within that general group, a lot of times cults focus on the individuals who are in the group and make it hard for those individuals to leave through indoctrination, through forcing individuals to stay within the group in and of itself, and sometimes even towards harassment and everything like that of cult members in and of themselves. 1 second. Boom. Your mic is cutting out sometimes for some reason. Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Let me just fix that. Is this a little better? I'll continue speaking and let me know if it's better for if all of you can hear me and it doesn't keep cutting in and out. Thank you for letting me know, Linear. I really do appreciate it. So, with cults. Dion LaShay, thank you for stopping on in. It's always a pleasure seeing you, Linear, and everybody else inside the chat. I was dealing with COVID for a bit, so I had to recuperate, and I didn't think that it was good for me to come on and to speak as of yet. But now, since I'm getting better, I'm able to now tackle the show more. So that's going to be something that that's really. I really like that I'm getting better, and that's why I started. Came back to the show. Um, Oh, still a bit of an issue might be an internet. Yeah, I think it might be an internet issue because a lot of people are utilizing the internet at the moment, so that might be the reason. Uh, however, when we look at cults, right? Cults are, in my opinion, a detriment to people in and of themselves, right? Because just like a virus, their number one thing is to survive. So through the survivability of a virus, what is it? To spread through people, but at the same exact time also to keep that general populace, keep that kind of petri dish still viable so that it's able to still permeate and spread its ideas to other individuals in due time. So it needs to have viable hosts in order for it to jump from person to person to person to person or people to people to people to people and from there create, as I stated in the beginning, a religion in and of itself. Now, the question is, why are cults so dangerous? Why are these embryonic religions so dangerous for people in the beginning? And don't get me wrong, even religions afterwards are dangerous as well. But why are cults so tight knit, so secretive, so what's the word I'm looking for? A detriment towards a certain extent to people. And that is because they don't want people to leave. As soon as people leave, what ends up happening is that their power weakens. And through the weakening of their power, they're unable to obviously permeate or keep a stable unit. And through the leaving of that unit, what ends up happening is that its power grows weaker, 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 weaker until it dissolves. And there's a lot of cults that are out there, just like Heaven's Gate, for instance, that absolutely dissolved after the founder and let alone its members sadly took their lives and everything like that. But the idea is that not all cults have that idea of the arm. Well, not Armageddon because all cults have some sort of Armageddon to them. But at least within the heads of cult leaders, they want it to permeate. They want it to survive. They want their cult to expand or to continue to be that tight knit group, so that it's more difficult for individuals to leave and also it's easier to indoctrinate children in that particular way. And that's where the first issue comes in. The first issue is that children are the ones that are in great danger when it comes to cults because first off their indoctrination, but secondly because cults are so tight knit, large abuses or large sense of abuses, people are able to abuse children and women in these cults in order because they can't leave, right? And when they're unable to leave or they're unable to speak because they feel that speaking to somebody who's an outsider might be a detriment to them and might hinder them from a spiritual advancement or whatever the situation is, or maybe might hinder their way to heaven in a sense. What ends up happening? And that's where we see so much abuse happening within cults. Is first off the women and the children, and even the men in and of themselves, but predominantly because the hierarchy of religions are well, God, men, women, children. That's predominantly how the hierarchy works, right? So through that hierarchy, they are able to abuse the lower members of the religions or of this cults. And what ends up happening is that these members feel nervous to speak out because a lot of times too, higher ups of the cult silence the people from speaking out and everything like that. And through silencing individuals from speaking out, what happens is that abuses can continue and continue and continue. And a lot of times the victims focus in on themselves. They think that the reason why these abuses are happening is because of them, is because they haven't necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for? Because they haven't followed the right path. So henceforth, abuses will continue if the right path is not taken, right? Sort of like Jehovah's Witness, Mormonism, uh, ex evangelists, and or not ex, but evangelists, and so on and so forth. Scientologists. We can go through the entire name of cults left, right, and center. That's not going to help the situation. This lets us know what cults truly are and why they are able to continue to thrive for such long periods of time. 1 second before I go on, I'm just going to check out what's written within the chat itself. So let's go into here. So one difficulty I've always had is finding the balance between being very much against cults, but also respecting an individual's choice to decide for themselves to join a cult. The So yeah, my apologies. So I can see where you're coming from, Puck. I really do. I see when you state that hmm, the person has the right to go into a cult if they so well choose, right? But the problem is that a lot of times these individuals aren't necessarily welcomed into a cult or don't willingly go into cults, right? A lot of times they're at the bottom of the doldrum. They're slowly but surely they think that their life has no meaning, that there's nothing that they can actually ascertain or get, and they might be always sad or whatever the situation may be. There's a plethora of other things that can happen within a person's life that can really make them feel that their progression within life has been uh, hindered in a sense, just like a loss in family or something like that that can completely devastate people, right? And from there, through that devastation, what they do is that cult leaders in and of themselves see that as a weakness and they prey on the weakness of these particular individuals and bring them on in to the cult. So technically, I wouldn't necessarily say that these individuals are choosing to join cults, right? I think that these individuals are being used because, or certain of these individuals, or most of these individuals, I should say, are being abused and slowly but surely being drugged into these type of cults because they're not really thinking at that moment because of the sadness that they have, because of the depression, because of that said devastation. They're unable to really think outside or not outside of the box, but realize that they're being manipulated, right? It's kind of like how Linear stated right over here. I guess manipulated to join cult is the best way to do it. Yeah, exactly, right? Like I think that manipulation in and of itself is the major reason why people join cults in the first place because not all people, remember, like I'm not saying everybody. Some people might think that this cult has something great to it and that their life was missing that particular area, right? Or that particular thing that that cult can provide. That is true. But I think a lot of times it's like with Jehovah's Witness, right? They themselves sometimes they look at obituaries of people's family members dying, and look at the number or where the place of residence is, or go to where the funeral is being held. Not the funeral, but where uh, the person is being remembered in and of themselves within church services or whatever the situation may be. And that's where they try to speak to people because they want to reel people in to the cult in and of itself, right? 1 second. Let me see this. the best I've been able to talk to people, danger, specific cults, and to what else should be done. That's actually a really good because it's true, right? A lot of times, the best thing that people could do is just talk about the threat of the cult in and of themselves, right? And the threat of what might happen if you join a cult and the detriments that you might run into. But then again, I think the one thing is because a lot of cults in and of themselves already have a rotten root in and of itself, right? Because they're trying to survive. There are a lot of abuses that are within cults that happen. And I think the individuals who are able to escape and to leave those type of cults and to come out and to start telling their story and stuff like that gives individuals who are not part of that cult a kind of window in to the into the life of that particular cult. And from there, what ends up happening and what we can slowly but surely start to move on, which I will discuss later, are those problems. And you can tackle those problems, I think, through multiple different ways, right? But at the moment, I'll just because I think you bring up a very good point. I think you bring up a very good point about what should be done, what else should be done, and we will discuss that relatively soon. Uh, what is this? Usually involves a lot of false promises. Exactly, Linear. A lot of cults have false promises which are there to wheel in people and to make people believe that there's going to be something beneficial for them, a better kind of like tomorrow in a sense. But in actuality, what it is that they're slowly but surely starting to like isolate. They love bomb you at first and then isolate you slowly but surely and start to indoctrinate you with their rules and with their regulations and with their belief and after a while you get wrapped into the whole entire mess which is cult life. While I generally agree with you, I'm having difficulty wrapping my mind around the idea of forcing someone out of a situation, even if they're manipulated into it. Very interesting way of looking at it. I do think, I don't think that towards a certain extent is necessarily forcing the person out of it, right? Because they're part of that institution. And if the institution is run from the inside from abuses, and you tackle that institution with everything you have, and I'll delve into it in more detail, but with laws, with politics, with constant, with people picketing in the front of the place in order to really bring attention to the abuses that are happening there. And at the same time, with major arrests or fines towards the higher ups, which are doing these particular abuses or allowing these abuses to happen while arresting and putting away people who are committing these abuses in jail slowly but surely brings the whole edifice down upon itself, right? And from that very instance, the person doesn't necessarily have any other spot except for that spot, but the whole entire thing has fallen, right? And that's when individuals, I should say, who are more um, not lenient, but who want to obviously help and show these individuals that there's a better way, right? That there's a better way. There's a better way of looking at the world in and of itself. I think that would be the best way of tackling it. So they can come in afterwards once the edifice of the whole entire structure of the cult has fallen, and the rest of the believers are kind of in disarray in a sense. Then you can have individuals who want to explain, to bring them in and to say, "Don't worry, we're here to help." And through proper de what's the word now? Not deportation, but through uh, slowly but surely in combating their indoctrination, hopefully it will lead them to a better way, to a better path that can be beneficial for them. And at the same exact time, to slowly but surely start to put away magical thinking and stuff like that, and to join on the side of history in a sense. Because I do think that slowly but surely atheists will start to grow because of the multifaceted ways that we're engaging problems. I do believe that slowly but surely atheists will grow in number, and at the same exact time, with our own proper edifice, as I keep talking about, right, and our own proper foundation that makes people feel secure when they leave, and they don't feel that they're missing something because they have the community, they have the awe factor and everything like that, right? Slowly but surely building up the awe factor, slowly but surely building up a community, building up activities for them to join into, physical activities to help people if they are if they are oh my god, I can't believe that I'm forgetting the word at the moment. Jesus Christ. But if let's just say they want to lose weight or something like that, then we can tackle things more on the uh, health based area, and constantly towards that extent to really help build that individual and make them confident within their new idea, within their new way of being, in a sense. My God, I can't believe that was so difficult for me. Jesus Christ. All right, let's let's go on. See, that makes sense to educate on these kinds of manipulation tactics. Absolutely. But if someone makes their own choice to join anyway, what should I do at that point? The one thing is that because the problem with cults, right, is that they themselves slowly but surely start to indoctrinate their own children, and their own children are then sometimes, unless it's Jehovah's Witness, then they're not allowed to go out into the general public. But let's just say if they're Mormon or they're, well, not Jehovah's Witness, that's true. Jehovah's Witness is fine. I meant to say Amish and stuff like that. Then they can't leave their establishment unless it's another community area, right? But all in all, I think that if they choose out of their own volition, the idea is to always, how could I say it? If there's somebody who I always think to fight for reason is the best way of moving forward. So constantly, if you are their presence, constantly kind of like ask questions. You like street epistemologists. Ask questions. Ask them why. Why are you? What is the reason you feel more at ease within this group? And you just continue onward with the street epistemology, and hopefully through the questions that are being asked, slowly but surely they start to question themselves, being like, shit, I actually don't know. And ask the hard questions as well. Don't push too hard, because then after they will be more defensive. And that's where my thing is, where for me, I'm more of somebody who goes at a problem. That's why I want to go at like the people who are on the top of the pillar and stuff like that. Because after hitting that, then once that edifice falls, then everybody else who wants to be street epistemologists can go and start talking with the generalized people, right? The generalized believer who's not really thinking either philosophically or apologetically in a sense. They're just looking at things just by their sense of belief within that ideology, right? And from there, that's where you can slowly but surely remove that indoctrination from them through street epistemology, through asking those type of questions and everything like that. I just don't have the patience for that. So for me, I'm going for those higher up individuals. But for anybody else who wants to deal with those people who follow those higher ups, and once those higher ups are taken down, than to really go and do street epistemology for them, stuff like that. That's the way that I see it. But yeah, great question. Great question. Uh, okay, all that makes sense. Are we then also willing to find a way to replace everything that and the insular society provided for those people community, livelihood, a sense of purpose? Exactly. And yes, that's the number one thing that I think that we need to build up within the atheist community. Because a lot of times I find that people have that statement, is your way. You like you can follow, right? Or not follow, that's the wrong word, but you could be an atheist but do it your own style. And I think that is okay. But at the same exact time, I think for a lot of people that leaves them isolated and alone, right? Because they're kind of like, shit, how do I do it my own way? I don't know how to do it my own way. I've only known how to do it like I only know how to follow community. I don't know how to create my own thought of how to tackle this, right? So that's why where a lot of people tackle me and charge me with, oh, you're trying to create something that's like a cult itself. It's like, no, that's not the reason why I want to create the atheist uprising. The why is because I understand human psychology, and people want community. But at the same exact time, at least at the beginning, they kind of want a sense of like direction, as a path, like an activity that they wish to do or a goal to tackle. Right. And then from there, once they're on their feet and rolling and slowly but surely, being more secure in themselves as being atheists, right? Then they can branch off and be atheists themselves and everything like that. That's fine. But the idea is when these individuals first leave the religion or first leave their cult, as this is based on, a lot of times they need that community awareness and they also need a direction, a goal oriented direction to kind of make them feel that they have that sense of purpose. Because if they atheist themselves right away, there's no way that they're going to stay within the group. They're going to move on to some other spiritual cult, whatever the situation is. Not a win for atheists, as a lot of people think it is. At least that's my opinion. Oh shit. Where did it go? One second. Okay, there we go. All right. It doesn't feel sufficient to give them a hard shove off a cliff. We should also think about how to give them a soft place to land. Again, completely agree. I'm not thinking about like ripping the rug from underneath them and letting them fall into the abyss and being like, all right, you got to deal with that yourself, right? Like, that's not at all what I want to do. That's why I'm like, foundational base. So when the rug is pulled, will ever either fast or slow, because sometimes it's easier to rip off a band-aid than to take it off slowly. Right? And other times it's easier to take it off slowly than to rip it off. So it just matters based on the individual you're dealing with, right? But all in all, no matter how we rip off that band-aid, we still want that foundation to be there. We still want people to feel secure once the band-aid is removed, that they're like, okay, I'm not going to bleed out, or okay, this is not going to be one hell of a painful experience. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling like there's not similarities to a cult, but like community, as you stated, uh, activities to be done, uh, even community centers that they can go to in real life rather than on the internet to really feel at ease and to sit down and to have just normal conversation, not constantly about religion and to berate religious individuals and everything like that, but to have just a place where they can come, relax, read if they need to, do sports if they need to, whatever the situation may be, and have group activity in order to really inspire that purpose driven life, at least. In my A lot of people are promised miracles. How do you replace that? Now, that is a good question. That is an extremely good question. Um, I think that the idea in and of itself Because what are miracles? Miracles in and of themselves are things of awe, right? Things that a lot of people don't really know, like things that are supposed to be contra nature, but literally it's not even contra nature if we really look at it. It's more or less of a lack of knowledge in certain things, and henceforth it looks like a miracle, right? So we got to focus on that awe aspect. We got to focus on that like taking people's breath away by scenery, by, as I said, creating community centers that seem sometimes even bigger than life in a sense, where like they feel they're in a place that is based on change and not just some place where it's just like, oh, okay, like this is boring, like this is not even at all the circumstances of what we really want to delve into, and so on and so forth, right? So we got to really focus on that angle. We got to focus on creating that sense of awe. We got to create that focus on the extent of the bigger than life aspect. And I think that's something that's extreme, but that's something that we really got to focus on, at least. So I think that's how you replace the miracle aspect. Again, it's not a foolproof idea, but at least it's kind of like a quasi replacement until something else can be figured out in that general area. Maybe focus more on the sciences, for instance, and tell them that in due time, with the what the hell is the word I'm looking for? With scientific progression and everything, slowly but surely we can engage in longer duration of life, for instance, uh, different ways of being, to combat death in and of itself, right? With the idea of not just artificial intelligence in and of itself, but VR world, right? I'm not sure if you guys saw the show Black Mirror, but there was one that was kind of like a movie in a sense. That Black Mirror was focused on predominantly what's the name of it? It was focused on a VR system that would take which would copy your mind into the computer generated system. And from there, you can live out your life or however long you wish until you got tired of it and everything like that within that system. And you can see your family members, you can see your grandkids, you can see your great 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 grandkids if you so well wanted to, and if you wanted to still stay within that environment, right? And I think that's something that should be focused on as well as technology development of that said technology in and of itself. And I think that that's how we can also combat that miracle aspect as well. Okay, 1 second. We can substitute. Okay, sorry about that. I was just given something just a few seconds ago, so I'm just reading it. All right. So let me just see. You can substitute some stuff, but not all of it. And you're right. It's like trying to find a perfect substitute for an addictive drug. You're absolutely correct. And sometimes there's not that thing that's there. But if you can tick off most of what a person wants or what a person is looking for, I really do believe that in and of itself would be beneficial for um, people in general, right? So if you get the community aspect, you get the tackling of like obviously they're not beating the miracle themselves, but you're kind of tackling it through science, through new world technology, and through that you're kind of bringing in this new idea that people can sort of be around and maybe in due time embrace, you know. So they don't really need a religious angle when you have technology that is already moving at such a fast rate. And by the time we get to that point, we might even be at that VR system, right? Where we can then see our loved ones and everything like that, or the people who we idolize, or whatever the situation may be, living that nouveau life, you know? So that's the thing. That's how I kind of see it. They have the hope. I know it doesn't count for much, but for some people, it's everything. You're right. You're right. Sometimes hope is the very thing that keeps people, and not only that, but the hope for change, and let alone the hope for something that's better, right? Because most people who live and who have large, towards a certain extent, believe in the outlandish towards a certain extent, right? Are people who live in impoverished areas, right? And that's the only thing that they have is that hope. My life is a living hell now, or whatever, and I'm needing to work like 4 jobs or 3 jobs at the moment. But at the same exact time, right? They are they it's not that they long for heaven in a sense, but it's kind of like after all this struggle, all this suffering, like I get to have a place where I go where I can relax, be with Jesus, be with my kids, and be with my father, mother, and so on and so forth, grandparents, and you can go down the whole entire line, right? So yes, you are right, but I think just like with a lot of nations, kind of like Singapore, Taiwan, um, China, and well, maybe not, but and Japan, for instance, they themselves have the lowest amounts of religiosity because society in and of itself has kind of propelled them into a whole new strata. So people don't need to think of things in religious terminology, right? Because they already have their society is already built up to such a way where they feel fulfilled within their lives towards a certain extent. So I think that's why like religiosity within these general areas are so low, right? Because they have that sense of fulfillment and everything. And when they do pass on or whatever, then it's kind of odd when they do die at the end of their lives, obviously. They'll slowly but surely, oh, well, they're not afraid to go. You know, right? We are Dion LaShay. I personally don't like cults or any religion, and the people by and large would not want to be or stay in a cult. Would not be their benefit to them. I completely agree with you, my friend. I completely agree with you, and I think like that is where I'm standing. That's where I'm looking at the, the scenario. I'm not a big fan of cults. I'm not a big fan. I despise cults. I despise religions. And that's why I'm working so hard in order to find something that can literally be a, how can I say it? As I keep saying, a foundation. So that people, when they come into quote unquote being an atheist, secular humanist, whatever other umbrella term that's out there, right? They can slowly but surely, or what's underneath the umbrella of atheism, I should say, they can slowly but surely feel more at ease and more in comfort with being an atheist and all the other worldviews that come with being an atheist, right? So that's the only thing that I'm looking for. That's the only thing that I think is the best way in order to engage uh, these particular uh, religious institutes and cultish organizations in and of themselves. Hold on, let me just go here. Just making sure I'm not monopolizing. No, 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 you're perfectly fine. Please keep asking your questions. Keep throwing in questions in there. I really want to answer all your questions. So that you can understand where the atheist uprising is coming from, right? And not think that we're trying to literally bulldoze people for or trying to pull the rug underneath individuals without necessarily having something that's like a safety net once they do. So please ask away, ask away, ask away, ask away. Too many people came out of cults damaged with the stories they share. I completely agree, and I've heard a couple of stories myself from people who came out of cults, and it enrages me that these organizations are still in existence, and that's why I wanted to create this talk at this moment, so that it is kind of like what the Atheist Uprising want to do when they wish to engage these cultish organizations and stuff. But yeah, I'm on the same boat. For some people, a miracle just might be just finding happiness. You're absolutely right. Or at least less self loathing. You're absolutely right. That can be a miracle in and of itself too. And I'm not trying to say that uh, there aren't more, I guess you could say, moderate or more, um, yeah, I guess moderate is a good term. Like, where it's not really like giving the person the sun, the moon, and the whole entire solar system, but it's just like so that they can live, that they can feel happy within their environment. They can live with themselves and everything like that and not need to fear about tomorrow and everything. So I completely agree. Sometimes it can be something based on the personal level rather than on such a microscopic meaning of life and heaven and trying to beat out hell and stuff like that through doing work, through faith, and so on and so forth. It can just be, as you stated, just happiness and not feeling self loathing for that particular individual, which is their miracle. So, good point. Very good point. With that, I guess the only thing that I can say is that you got to focus on things that people like care about and listen to people so that you can orientate them towards a goal or whatever that is beneficial for them to feel at least naturalistic happiness, right? And not self. So I guess like a lot of things is based on listening to the individuals and stuff like that, and hearing what they feel happy with and everything like that. As long as it doesn't come, yeah, as long as they feel happy, it's good. It's a good thing. As I said, as long as it doesn't come to harming children or women or whatever situations, and they just want to be quote unquote what is called a good person, whatever makes them happy. How many times have we heard a theist say, I felt like I was wasting my life until I found God? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that's the whole entire thing, right? The purpose that a person feels, a purpose driven life. And I think that atheists can give people. It's just that it needs to be more intricate because once people leave religion, they have so many ideas, so many wants, so many things that they want to expand on, right? Because they've been so kept up, cooped up within that culture, cooped up within that religion, and not really had the opportunity to really follow their dream, right? A lot of times what we would kind of need is individuals to help them kind of formulate a plan within the community center that can put them at the put them at ease and at the same exact time help them tackle certain, as I said, goal orientations that might give them that sense of happiness and give them that sense of direction. Let me see this. I feel the best way to get cults and religions to dwindle is to help make real life less shit for more people. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. And the idea is that we need to well again the ideas are slowly but surely coming, right? So at the moment, I don't really have the idea of how to really tackle it. We can deal with the healthcare system. I think that a healthcare system with 5 tiers is beneficial, right? so that everybody within society can feel, but everybody has the same exact and same amount of medical care given to them, right? It's just that for certain hospitals, you got five-tier system, or for all hospitals, you have five-tier system. And maybe for clinics, you have like a two-tier system or three-tier system or something like that. For individuals who have money, they're able to go and pay their way, which is going to be beneficial for the hospital in and of itself, and for the hospital to invest in itself to buy better equipment. And then as you start going down the actual ladder, right, everybody still has that same exact, or everybody is cared for in the same way, but everybody is benefited by their quote unquote social status, right? So it's not like people feel that, oh, okay, well, I can't pay my way and I'm pissed. So I'm going to lobby against the government. I'm going to lobby against these individuals. And people at the bottom rung are thinking, my God, I'm going into these hospitals and stuff like that. And I got a waiting time for, I don't know, freaking, I need to wait for half the day. I need to wait for the whole day. And then as soon as I get in and get an appointment, well, for fuck's sakes, now I got to freaking wait for months until I get my appointment done, you know? So things work in a particular way, which is beneficial for all people in the society, right? And not just like for one or the other. It needs to be beneficial because everybody, no matter who you look at within a society, be it rich, be it the super rich, rich, middle class, lower middle class, poor, and even towards the extent of the homeless, right? For now, but hopefully we can get low income housing up and going. That can definitely benefit them, right? But they don't need to worry about these type of problems and everything like that. But all in all, what does need to happen, and that's why I like the Norwegian system a lot, because it's based on work. If you are, let's just say, addicted to I don't know, drugs, or even homeless and stuff like that, right? Their number one thing is, okay, how do we tackle homelessness? How do we tackle addiction? Well, if a person is constantly working and is being monitored by a proper healthcare professional and being constantly brought in to hear like what the circumstances are, slowly but surely dwindle them off the drugs and add something else within their life that can hopefully replace that. You slowly but surely start to create a society that at first values working throughout the whole spectrum. And at the same exact time, another good thing too is that you can actually start putting in low income houses, but properly built and properly sustained and not half-assed done, so that people at least have that sense of dignity when they move into these places. They're not feeling that these small boxes that they're living in is kind of like a prison, where they feel that they have enough, natural light coming in. Where they feel that they have enough space in order to move and do things, and so on and so forth, right? So there's a lot of things that are coming through the pipeline within the atheist uprising. This is for now. Uh, a lot of them are just ideas, but hopefully we can change them into actual proper uh, concrete plans for the future. Let's go. Okay, perfect. What is this? Sadly, I can't stay much longer, but I'm glad I got. Seriously, I'm glad to see you, Tupac, and I'm glad that I heard your ideas and everything. I mean, seriously, fantastic questions. Thank you very much, you, Linear, Dion LaShay. Thank you for your questions, and have a good night, Puck. Seriously. And again, thank you for stopping on by. I really do appreciate it. Uh, Greetings. What's going on, Skeptic Haven? How are you doing? And welcome again to the Atheist Uprising. It's been quite some time, but I'm happy that you're here. How you doing? I'm trying to get back into the scene. So, oh, okay, cool, 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 cool. So, all in all, right? In general, these are the plans that we are starting to come up, and these are the things that we really need to start to build our our society, the changing of society, where individuals who are rich are brought up in a way of philanthropy rather than in a way of just building up wealth. Kind of like Andrew Carnegie in and of himself. Yes, did he do a lot of shit that was shady? Yes. But at the end of the day, he gave so much money away to, uh, how is it called again? to like, I was about to say bookstores, but it's not a bookstore. Library. There you go. Jesus. To the library and everything like that, which was predominantly beneficial for the individuals who were around and for workers themselves, because the workers were able to go to these libraries, relax, not needing to rush, 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 rush. It's just that there needs to be more put in. There needs to be more philanthropy, uh, people in and of themselves, more philanthropy for individuals who do have a lot of money, not necessarily taxes and stuff like that, but educated properly in order to learn that they don't need who's going to be the next trillionaire or the next billionaire or the next this or the next that. What really needs to be focused on is that you benefit the society through the investment within the society. So, you know. But all in all, these are the particular ways, and just like how I stated beforehand, to tackle cults, we need to tackle them in many different ways. We got to tackle them in the courts. We need to tackle them with protest. So pickets outside of the actual community or center or outside of their place of worship and everything like that. Bring the media in and shine a light on their atrocities and let alone on their depravities. We need to arrest the individuals who have done such horrendous crimes to children, women, and so on and so forth, and bring them to justice. And we need to completely erode the leadership so that slowly but surely the individuals who are around the cult, right, do not have that base to kind of stand on. After that, I think that atheists and we should have individuals to go into these areas afterwards and to help out uh, people who were part of these cults, but no longer have that establishment around them because the leadership has been dwindled so much that they couldn't do anything, right? And that's literally what we need to do. Tackle it in a multifaceted way. Court system, laws, individuals literally engaging the higher ups so that the higher ups are constantly off balance and everything like have the higher ups go into debates, have the higher ups go into courts and stuff like that. Why did they allow such abuse to happen underneath their watch and so on and so forth? Find them, do whatever is need be in order to knock them down. Things. Keep them off balance. The second thing is get the individuals who are in there with a lot of individuals who are coming out of the cults and speaking out against the cults, right? And the abuses of the cults and the abusers who are within the cults who are being protected, engage them and take them down as well. And slowly but surely, the cult organization is going to just fall apart. And after that happens, then we can have individuals who are, as I stated, street epistemologists, people who are atheists, the indoctrination tactics to go on in and to literally, literally uh, de-indoctrinate them and have them kind of choose their own path. Hopefully, they choose the right path in history, which is the atheist path, but still, um, all in all, we will slowly but surely start to see that that's how we deal with cults. That's how we should deal with the people who are within the cult, who are at the bottom rung, who are being the abused and who are being indoctrinated, deal with the people on top, like constantly just battle charging them in a sense. And at the same exact time, bring down the actual foundation itself through all the abuse and through all the stuff and find them so much that they can't keep afloat, right? And I'm talking about the higher ups. And from there, as I said, the whole edifice collapses in on itself. And then people who are trained can go in and slowly but surely show the indoctrinated a better way and a more healthier way for living, an atheist way. But all in all, I got an end stream right now. Love the conversation that I had with all of you. I want to again thank our Patreon supporters, Dion LaShay and Linear, for really helping us. We love doing it. That is providing information and our ideas to you. At the same time, I would really like to tell everybody that starting next week, we are actually going to start our interviews. So we have an interview session that is going to be started, and we are going to have a debate. Might have a debate. I should say that. Might have a debate. The debate might be the next week after, but either this week or next weekend we'll have a debate. And if we don't have a debate this weekend, we'll start the actual um, philosophy conversation that we want to have for Sunday. So we will have mostly what we're going to be talking about is universal skepticism. Hmm. Is it the right way to always be skeptical about every single little thing, or should we be skeptical about some things and more concrete about others? Really good conversation. But thank you all for coming on by. I want to thank you for literally having, or not having this conversation, but asking wonderful questions and also engaging in the conversation. Thank you so much. And I will see you next week on the Atheist Uprising. Remember, the uprising starts today. Have a good and great night.